Emily Galagaski with Women 2.0's In Conversation series, here with Jen Bekman, the founder of New York's Jen Bekman Gallery and the creator of 20by200.com, a site that champions affordable art. Jen, tell us a bit about how you got started with 20by200.
I started doing internet stuff in '94, very early, after having been lost for a long time. So I always say that I didn't actually know what I wanted to be when I grew up until the internet was sort of an option. And I did that for a long time. I lived out in the Bay Area for 4 years, and I worked at Netscape. My first job out here was at Electric Minds, which was Howard Rheingold's. It was the first web-based online community, and I was the director of community there. And then I worked at Netscape, and I had a bunch of consulting projects, and I moved back to New York in 2000. And the gallery sort of was the bubble 1.0 burst, and I was at loose end. I always tell the story about how I was in the middle of renovating my apartment when I got laid off from my job, where I thought I knew my path, and like my electrician was like, "Oh, you're one of those .com people." Like, there was like this, the industry like collapsed around me, and it was like that's what I thought my path was. And so, when I opened the gallery, I think I was 33, and before I opened the gallery, I kind of thought that I was all washed up.
Why is this work important to you?
I really believe that living with art, I was saying to somebody earlier that our tagline is live with art, it's good for you. That's been the tagline for the business since I opened. And sometimes I get frustrated because it's kind of catchy enough that it seems like a throwaway phrase. But I actually really mean it because I really have had the experience of living with art, and I kind of came to it late, and it's really enriched my life. And so everything that we do is about making that happen, and everything that we do is about supporting emerging artists and like getting more people collecting art. And so and I think that my particular angle on it is that I know enough about technology and using technology to develop an audience that I can sell a print on the internet for $20 because I know that I can find 200 people to buy it. They cannot come into my gallery to do it because the amount of work that goes into a single transaction at the gallery is just insane. It's just like, it's sort of like couture as compared to like going to Target. I think that what excites me about it is that, like, what I love about 20by200 specifically is that I describe it as a benevolent system, because it's the artists really benefit. Like, a lot of the artists who work with us have never made as much money making art before they came and did an edition with us, which is, it's huge. It's a big deal. It's kind of game changing in the sense that, working with emerging artists, I see a lot of them give up because it's just part of the deal. Like, you get your MFA and there's like only so much waitressing you can do before you think like, well, I'm doing this because I want to do this, but then you end up not making work. If you can make $10 or $20 or $30,000 a year selling prints, like, you can keep that waitressing job, and you only have to do it 2 or 3 days a week instead of 4 or 5 days a week.
Why do you think 20by200 has been successful?
But Raul, who helped me like build the whole site, he is someone who, like, we just knew we wanted to make it really easy, because that was the whole thing, is that, like, art is hard. Like, it's confusing, it's intimidating, it's all these things, and so we just wanted it to be so easy that you couldn't find an opportunity to say no.
How do you know when a project is right for you?
It's exactly me, right? It's an internet business that's an art business where I get to write every day. And so, and I think actually, and that's something that I talk to people about a lot, like when they're trying to figure out how to find their niche, like, what are the things that you're good at? What is the combination of things that you're good at that's a unique combination?
With so many communities using a crowdsourced model, why did you choose a curated approach with 20by200?
That, the internet allowed me to become the curator that I am, because it allowed me to look at so much stuff and to learn so much from just a single point of interest. An example I could use is I read an article 2 months ago. I read an article in the Telegraph about how the Obamas are talking about putting modern art in the White House, which is like a huge big deal, right? And they mentioned an Ed Ruscha painting that I wasn't familiar with. And I love Ed Ruscha. I'm super into his work, but I wasn't familiar with that specific image. So I did a Google image search for the painting title, and it took me to a site that is attempting to catalog all his work. That I got to sit there for an hour and look in chronological order at his body of work and see it evolve in a way that would have been entirely inaccessible to me unless I had, went to an institution or like, you know what I mean, like sat in the library and like looked at microfiche and you know what I mean. It's like a very different. There's just like there's so much available to you if you follow a path, right? And then I found the image and I posted it to my Found account, and which in turn feeds into my Tumblr account. And I posted a couple of other images that I found there as well. And then there was this whole other life that they took on from there. And that's always been really, it's just been really, I love that about the internet. But the fact is that, most people are not interested enough in Ed Ruscha that they're going to spend 3 hours on a Saturday morning looking through all that stuff. And they might not know enough about him to know what of the 80 images that are on there. And I'm not even an expert myself, but like, I have my instincts and I have my tastes. And so by republishing it from a place where there was so much of it, I kind of gave it a new life and a new audience. And I connected it back to this article that was about the Obamas buying contemporary art for the White House, right? And that's just like, it's radically different. It's so, it's just radically different than the way that art has worked previously, and it's like, it's kind of, it's transparent, and it's also sort of just much more open to understanding than it might have been otherwise.
Thanks for listening to the In Conversation series. To learn more, please visit women2.org.